3.6 miles of circuit steeped in history and tradition, the home of British motorsport. This is Silverstone, our host for round 12 of RCR Season 5, with high-speed straights and iconic corners such as the near-flat right-hander of Copse, or the jarring left-right of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. This track presents plenty of overtaking opportunities. 18 corners, 10 to the right and 8 to the left, with 2 DRS zones for good measure. Our drivers are scheduled in for what is no doubt going to be a fantastic race. Welcome along, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Let's get into some action. I'm going to go open up, just get everything set up once we get into the session. As you can see, 16 drivers here today who will be doing a short qualifying session. And hopefully an exciting qualifying session at that. Going to get all our data situated on the track, on the screen, sorry. Telemetry off, lap data enabled, track map full map, and we will display fastest lap. All right, so already got drivers coming out onto the track. Had a few drivers complaining already about the tyres overheating here. Many say, do not worry about the tyres. For some reason, Lex is currently sat on intermediates. We've got Rees-Max at the moment on his outlap. Just coming through Village at the moment. Last week, saw Binary win. Unfortunately, I wasn't here, so I wasn't able to stream and commentate that session. We hosted Austria. CJ took pole, but unfortunately lost the position on track, off track, sorry, due to a penalty. CJ did finish second. Lex qualified 9th, finished 4th. Actually, before we get into it, we can look at the drivers' standings at the moment. So Binary, with that win, actually pulls ahead even further of CJ. Pulls ahead of CJ. 7-point swing has now ended up Binary ahead in the championship standings. He's just 5 points ahead of CJ, though. Red Bull at the top of the constructors, the two championship rivals at the moment, Binary currently sat 48 points ahead of Lex. Red Bull ahead of AlphaTauri in the constructors standings. Right then, Rees-Max is beginning his lap, coming down the Hamilton straight. And here he goes then. Let's see what he is made of. Coming down the short Wellington straight up to Brooklands. Got to gear it down into about 5th gear. Let the car hang around on the inside. Tuck it in. Hit the apex as Active GMC already retires from the session. Hit the apex through Luffield. It's easy to get the car in a bit of a spin. You want to control that back end out of Luffield as you're going to carry the speed down through Woodcut up to the iconic corner of Copse that I mentioned before. Flat in qualifying, I do believe, as Rees-Max is going all out on this lap through Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel and Stowe. Or up to Stowe first. He's got to do the hanger straight, a long hanger straight, which presents plenty of overtaking opportunities here. Rees-Max coming through Stowe, 6th gear. Many drivers take that, and you want to get on the outside as much as possible because you're going to carry that speed down to the fail chicane and then through Club. Final corner just before the Hamilton straight. He crossed the line. It's a 130.2 for Rees-Max. Huggy Bear goes behind him. Huff and Dolbach with a 127.121. So he's our current provisional pole sitter on board at the moment with Slazenger of Volvo. Slaz has found a bit of pace as of recent. Qualified second last week, finished third. Got an average qualifying position this season of 9th and finishing 6th. So he's definitely found some pace. And that looks much faster. Unfortunately for Riesmax, that looks much faster than Riesmax's attempt. Through Maggots and Beckett's. David Kovalaki goes 128.758. Shows that time from Huff and Dolbach is a very good time. Slaz has gone fastest in the first and second sectors, though. Will he be able to put it on provisional pole? Early on in this session, it's a 126.612. And that, I believe, is going to be quite hard to beat. FR Element puts in a 130.1, but it's invalidated. And also crosses the start-finish line with that invalidated time and will have the next lap invalidated as well, as he went off the track on the start-finish straight. On board with Santry. Another one to watch out for. He's been coming up in terms of pace. Finished last week in Austria in 6th. So not a bad showing. Got himself a decent haul of points. Just right on board through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And then your foot to the floor, absolutely nailing it down the hanger straight, up to Stowe. And as I said before, little braking. You want to hang it onto the exit curb, carry as much speed as possible, hard on the brakes. That was a bit too tight on the apex, and he's lost the back end a little bit there. He's going to lose a chunk of time, about half a tenth. I'd say that was probably a 127.1, quite similar to Huff and Dolbach. He'll be disappointed with that, but he's going to have another run of it. Silverstone only 130 second lap at the tops, really, as you can see, going down to the Huggy Bear. Third in the championship currently, Lex. Has been struggling as of late. Finished 4th last week, though, after starting 9th, so bit of a recovery drive. Puts it on provisional pole with a 126.487. Good job from Lex. And a man who is really in contention for this RCR Drivers' Championship. We are on round 12 now, and the rounds are ticking down thick and fast. Just 5 points off the championship leader, his teammate. And these two are going to have many, many journeys of the competitive nature as this championship continues. And let's see if he's done the fastest second sector of anybody. Yes, he has. It's a 103.140 so far. And I'm Mr. DJ CJ. Coming up through turn 15. Excuse me. Rounding out the final corners now. It's a 126.747 third. That's the second row provisionally for I'm Mr. DJ CJ. Santry. Is he doing another lap? It looks like another lap. Let's have a look for anybody else on the track at the moment. Nope. And Santry fastest in the first sector. Through Lovefield he goes. That's turn 7 and up. Round Woodcut. Basically a non-corner. And the sweeping right-hander of Copse. Where famously of recent times, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen came together. Took Max Verstappen out of that race as Hamilton missed the apex. And controversially collided as Santry controversially loses his time, and as it's been invalidated, Yeah, Hamilton controversially took Verstappen out of the race, picked up a 10-second time penalty, and still went on to win the race. So, penalty caused quite a stir, as it didn't do much to affect Hamilton's charge in the championship. Did nothing to affect Hamilton's charge in the championship, only helped it, really. Him taking out Verstappen on that day. David Kovalaki looking to have another stab at it. Didn't get into the points last week. 13th, he started on the grid. He's currently 4/10 up on his time, though, so doing quite well. There's plenty of drivers at the moment, though, that haven't yet to set times. Actually, we'll go on board with one of those who's ahead on track. And that is Websy. Currently 5th in the drivers' standings. And one part of the AlphaTauri team that are heading 2nd in the constructors. Him and BXTN. I do apologise, but unfortunately, Codemasters can't get their game right, so we are using the F1 World cars instead of the team cars, but that's because we do this race on equal. All the cars are equal, and when we set it to equal, as Websy crosses the line, it's a 1:26.5. It was ever so close, but not close enough. Misses out against Lex just by 0.02 of a second, basically. As we've got a caution in Sector 2. Who is that? Probably FR Element. Yes, it is FR Element. Running off the track. Trying to keep out of the way of everybody. We'll go on board with BXTN. As I think Binary is further behind. No, he's not. We'll go on board with Binary, our championship leader, and then we'll quickly switch over to BXTN. Here comes Binary then. Let's see what he can do. As I said last week, he finished first after just starting 8th. So had a terrible qualifying in Austria, but made up for it. CJ picking up that 3-second time penalty, and Binary doing just enough. Not this time, though, as he, again, sitting down lower than you would expect him. 6th on the grid at the moment. BXTN slots into 5th. So much for getting there quick. As comes into the pit lane. See if we can find who that is who's about to cross the line. That's David Kovalaki as well. And he is coming into the pits too. Binary. Right. Currently looking to be on a fast lap at the moment. Slazenger Volvo. Who at the moment, it must be said, is improving incredibly and looks to be taking provisional pole away from Lex as it stands. If he can keep it together through the final corners, 15 down to 16 and 17, get it hard on the brakes. This is where Sebastian Vettel went into the back of Max Verstappen in 2019. Slaz crossed the line. It's a 126.7. Did not have it in the final sector. Lex crosses the line and puts it in on provisional pole. Goes in with a 126.2. The Lex at the moment charging up to the top of the provisional standings at the moment. He will start first unless something changes. But now is a slight calm before the storm. We've got 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in this session. All these drivers will leave it to the absolute last minute to try and get out on track at a time in which the track is at its most peak performance. Sancho on an out lap. Ace currently doing a lap. Who else is on a lap as well? FR Element, by the looks of it anyway. Botany Goblin still sat in the pits, no time set. Assassin Savage and Active JMC not to set times. They've DNF'd from the session. FR Element down on his time. We'll move on from FR Element then. We just try and find who is ahead on track, or the closest on track. By the looks of it, that would be the Huggy Bear. Huggy, bit of a mainstay name in RCR. Currently 6/10 down on his time, though. I think I'm going to have to move on from Huggy. Yeah, Huggy, a bit of a mainstay name in RCR. Has done plenty of races, returning as a reserve driver. Try and find his way again. He joins us for Season 5. Even these camera angles show how long that straight is. It takes an absolute age down the hanger straight. As Santry rounds out the final corners, it is a 1:27.078. 5/10 faster, but 8th place still. A stick on board with Ace. And the times will get faster for everybody who's 6 seconds down on its time. So we will move on again. Who's out on track, on an outlap, and ahead? That would be... I'm Mr. DJ CJ, currently second in the standings, as I said before. And looking to put the challenge to Binary, who's just 5 points ahead of him. CJ with 6 podiums and 2 wins. Binary, 7 podiums and 4 wins. CJ about to begin his lap, his final lap of this session. Here he goes then, down the Hamilton straight, into Abbey, swinging it round. Then you want to get the car slightly slowed down as you come through Village. Quite difficult to get the traction down as you carry it all the way through the Wellington Straight. Everything that you do in Village stays with you up until you get to Brooklands, and he sweeps it in. He's gone fastest in the first sector so far. CJ is on a charge at the moment as he comes through turn 7 into 8. Quite daunting when you come up alongside it. He's invalidated his lap time. CJ has invalidated his lap time and unfortunately will not challenge for pole position. Slaz has gone fastest in the first sector too. As I said, he has been improving in terms of his pace. Had a bit of a slow start to the season. He's a double world champion in RCR. I do mention this quite a bit. Also got a constructor's title to his name. Slazenger and Volvo coming up now to Maggots Beckett's. Left, right, left, right. Incredibly daunting for a driver. The first time they go through here onto the hanger straight. And he's 2/10 up on his time, but he's also invalidated his time. Who else is there that could possibly challenge Lex for provisional pole? I'm trying to get the next person on track. Who's the next person on track? That would be the Huggy Bear. He's down on his time. David Kovalaki also down on his time. Binary slightly down on his time. We'll stay with Binary then. And is that Lex just behind him? Yes, it is. Lex is invalidated. So it's all for Binary to do here. He's currently up on his time. He's 9/100ths of a second up on his time. He's got it all to do. He's got 7/10 to gain in the final sector alone, which just isn't going to happen, is it? Binary across the line, still remains 7th. BXTN coming up as well to the final corners. He's probably not done enough. He's 100th down on his time currently. Can he get some time in the final sector? Still remains 5th place. Huff and Dolbach spun out. Websy comes across the line. It's a 126.239. Misses out by 300ths of a second to Lex, who has done just enough on his first attempt to take pole position. We'll try and get CJ back into the session. I believe he has kicked out. So then, here we go. This is your starting grid. We've got Lex lining up on pole position. Websy follows him on the grid in second place. Huff and Dolbach, Slazenger of Volvo, BXTN, I'm Mr. DJ CJ, Binary, Santry, Ace, and David Kovalecki. Them two share the 5th row. The Huggy Bear, FR Element, Reese Max, Assassin Savage, Active JMC, and Cottony Goblin are your 16 drivers. I do apologise for the coughing. I'm not too well at the moment, so I'm trying my best. So then, as CJ struggles still to get into the session, we will see if we need to check our Discord. Is it? Yeah. To get him back in again. Okay, so 10 o'clock will be the start time. We're just going to go over the driver's standings again and the track map to see this magnificent circuit. Magnificent circuit. 18 corners, 10 to the right, 8 to the left. 2 DRS zones will make up for some great overtaking around this circuit. We are currently here in Silverstone. The next track we'll be visiting next week will be the Hungaroring. And as we're a bit pressed for time, just a reminder for everyone of the driver's standings as well. Binary currently in first place, 5 points ahead of his teammate, I'm Mr. DJ CJ, Lex, BXTN, Websy, Huff and Dolbach, Slazenger and Volvo, Santry, Micromash, and Owen. That's your top 10 in the driver's standings. Let's go over to the constructor's standings. Red Bull currently with a massive lead over AlphaTauri at the moment. 97 points between the two of them. And then from there, it gets even worse for any team looking to vie for the constructor's title. AlphaTauri, as I said, 97 points off. Alpine, 187 points off. And it just gets worse and worse from there. However, it is all about the driver's standings here in RCR. I'm Mr. DJ CJ. If you're just joining us, he is currently starting, let me just remind myself, 6th on the grid. However, he has just been disconnected from the session. So will have a very difficult start, as he will probably not be able to take control of his car under the formation lap. We do run a formation lap in RCR. And then once he gets onto the grid and lined up in a spot that isn't ideal, he will then also have to only be able to take control of his car once the race is underway. So unfortunate for CJ, but that's just the way that things go sometimes, and the way that this game goes, really. We do try our best to have the absolute best connectivity. We choose the best host possible. Make sure that anybody that's streaming is not hosting the session, which usually causes a bit of disruption. But unfortunately, these things do still happen. And it's just one of them things that we're going to have to deal with. Okay, then. The British Grand Prix with Italy is the only track in the only country. Sorry, Britain and Italy. We'll start that again. Is the only country the only countries in Formula One history to remain on the calendar throughout the history of the Formula One Championship. So since 1950, it was the first race in 1950, and it was also held at Silverstone. They call it the home of British motorsport, and that truly is a fact, basically. It has held the most British Grand Prix. And as I said in my introduction, it is steeped in history and tradition. Lex taking them round for the formation lap. Websy just missed out shy, didn't he? Missed out by just a few hundredths of a second to the pole time, but Websy is excellent around this track, has a great record around here, and will be looking to convert, some would say, a run of bad luck into something great today. Had a bit of issues with drivers colliding into him and him colliding into drivers in some cases. And Websy will want to turn that around today at a track that he definitely favours. So then, as you can see, one-stop strategies are recommended, starting on the soft, going to the medium, or starting on the soft and going to the hard. We'll actually go over the tyres at the moment that everyone's running. So Lex and Websy opting to go soft, Huff and Dolbach on the medium, followed by Slaz and BXTN, both taking the same choice. CJ on those soft tyres as well. I'm not sure if he was able to actually pick that strategy, or if, unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to choose his fuel. You'll notice that the start-finish line is behind the drivers, as the actual starting grid starts a little bit further up. So all the drivers lining up then for what will be round 12 of the RCR Season 5 Championship. Trying to get a good camera angle here, but I don't think we're going to get one, are we? Active JMC has not lined up in his grid box properly. Here we go then. The RCR Grand Prix is on the way. It's lights out. Away we go. Lex gets off the line somewhat well, but it looks like Websy has had an even better start. But the second phase of that start is tucked in just behind Binary. Gets past Santry. Santry is falling down the order. What has happened to Santry early on in this race? He has fallen down the order. So has Rizmax as well. You can maybe suggest that those two have come together, and it's already a virtual safety car in this session. CJ currently stayed in 6th. Binary stayed in 7th. However, importantly for him, he didn't lose too many places off the start. As I said, virtual safety car. So for those of you that do not know, virtual safety car, the drivers have to drive to a delta time, so can only go so fast throughout the lap. Creates great opportunities for drivers to close up the gap using that lap time to an advantage, as drivers will have to speed up and slow down to try and optimize it. And we are already green again, and Websy has optimized his starts back 3/10 behind Websy at the moment. And we're going to go down to BXTN, who is closing in on Slazenger and Volvo, who's currently in 4th place. We'll go over in a second. The position changes off the start. Active JMC and Cottony Goblin currently battling it out in the back there. But here goes BXTN looking on the inside of Stowe. Is it going to be an overtake? for the Irish driver. I think it is. Yes, he comes out just ahead, and that is going to be a great overtake. No DRS assistance there because DRS is only active after lap 1. So BXTN up into 4th, and CJ looks to be closing in on Slazenger and Volvo as well. Websy all over the back of Lex at the moment. This is a challenge for the lead, and Lex seems to be struggling to keep Websy behind him. We've got a caution in Sector 3. And I believe that is Reese Max at the moment, who's trying to get it back on track by the looks of it. And as I say that, Websy makes his way past Lex into Brooklands. And Reese Max has already retired from the session in the pit lane. So he believes he cannot make up anything after that early turn 2 collision, or turn 1 collision. And Websy currently in the lead of this race. CJ up into 5th. He has made his way past Slazenger and Volvo, and he's now hunting down BXTN as well. These soft tyres working extremely well for CJ at the moment, for Websy at the moment, for Lex at the moment as well. As you can see, Huff and Dobak already outside a second of Lex. The interval to Huff and Dobak now 1.2 seconds to Lex. And, well, if you're outside 1 second, you lose DRS, which unfortunately kind of tanks your race if you end up in a little bit of a train behind you. Websy with the fastest lap of the race so far. As we're watching on board with CJ at the moment. All over the back of BXTN. Pushing hard. Onto the Wellington straight they go. This is a very short DRS zone, but CJ looks maybe close enough to send one up the inside of Brooklands. And yes, no he doesn't. Yes, no he doesn't, as he comes through turn 7. Rounding out. He's staying so close behind BXTN. It's incredible that these two can race so close together. And CJ keeping that time very, very close. And Lex at the moment as well has closed back up to Websy. So Websy not able to drop Lex outside of the DRS. And now Lex is going to get a magnificent run down the hanger straight. Towards turn 15 he goes. He's going to be up the inside of Stowe. And yes, Lex does attempt to get the overtake done, but loses the back end slightly and has to wait another lap as Websy with a tiny lock up there. Intervale. And BXTN still fending off I'm Mr. DJ CJ, and in fact is now putting a charge against Huff and Dolbach. Someone's moving far down the order. That's Active JMC by the looks of it, who's come into the pits already and retired from the session and left the session as well. So Active JMC's race not going as he planned. Moments ago, BXTN closed in on Huff and Dolbach. But that moment has passed and he's now defending against I'm Mr. DJ CJ. But the retirement... Assassin Savage has DNF'd from the session, coming through Maggots and Beckett's, and that has activated or brought out the safety car. So the safety car coming out onto the track then will pick up the leader, and this race has been nullified here. So this will be great for the soft runners. They'll be able to take their tyres a little bit further into this race. Those on the mediums as well. Actually, either strategy works fine. I don't know why I'm saying that, because the medium runners can take these tyres a little bit further and have life in their softs at the end. Put on a great charge. As I'm Mr. DJ CJ actually pitting. And it looks as though all the drivers on the softs, or most of the drivers on the softs, are going to switch to the hard tyre. So everyone into the pit lane, everyone switching to the hard tyre. It looks as though they've done enough, and these tyres, they believe, are going to go all the way to the end. Webbsy on the hard tyre. Binary comes in as well. A shuffling around of the order. And there is your provisional, your technical top three at the moment, as those ahead have to pit. They have to come into the pits now. And I don't believe, as David Kovalaki has interestingly gone to the medium tyre, which I don't think will go to the end. None of the other drivers seem to think so. Those that pitted have all gone onto the hards. And this has really brought this race alive, as BXTN and Huff and Dolbach have opted not to come into the pits, not to change their tyres. Cottony Goblin, interestingly, staying out on those softs. To be honest, I am criticising, but I thought that we weren't far enough into this race to go the one stop, but these drivers obviously know better than I do. All of them are attempting the one stop. Everyone on the hard tyre has a very good chance of going to the end of this race. And BXTN and Huff and Dolbach will need to try and pull out, use their tyres to pull out a gap for those behind, or hope that the tyres fall off towards the end, as Cottony Goblin does come into the pits, but gets a 10-second time penalty for ignoring the yellow flag. So he's probably sped under the safety car coming into the pit lane. And that's going to really hurt his race. That's basically Cottony Goblin's race over, unless we get another safety car to nullify it again after he's served that 10-second time penalty. The safety car generally comes out, goes around 3 times, and then comes back into the pit. So after this lap, at the end of this lap, we can expect the safety car to come in. What must Huff and Dolbach and BXTN be thinking? Huff and Dolbach currently in the lead of this race. Are they thinking that we have seriously messed up here? Or do they know something that we don't, that the other drivers don't? Do they believe? Really, you can only think that they will not be able to go to the end. They're thinking that these hard tyres will not deliver performance to the end, or at least that's what they're hoping. Because they do have to box again. And when they do, they're going to lose around 22 seconds in the pits. Maybe even more than that. It is quite a long pit lane. There's the Silverstone one. It comes in just before Vale and rejoins just before Village. Or just after Abbey, should I say. So yeah, as I predicted, the safety car is in this lap. And now Huff and Dolbach bunching up the drivers behind. And he's got one hell of a task on his hands. He's going to decide when he's going to do it, when he's going to pull that trigger, when he's going to go. And it looks like he's already gone. He's gone just before the Vale chicane. He has pulled out a slight gap to BXTN. The gap was sitting at 0.3. It's now 4. But I think that slight straight has hindered Huff and Dolbach a little bit. Let's see if anyone else has got drivers squabbling for position here. This is FR Element, Cottony Goblin, who's moving up past the Huggy Bear on the inside. Huggy Bear goes wide. Huggy Bear also Under threat from FR Element there. Cotton and Goblin up into 11th. Squabbling for position, these drivers are. And Slazenger and Volvo all over the back of Mr. DJ CJ, just 2/10 behind the man in second place in the championship at the moment. CJ has dropped outside the 1 second interval that he needs to be in to pick up DRS on the next lap. No DRS for the time being after a safety car restart. We only get DRS activated 1 lap afterwards. Something has happened with Huff and Dolbach that we've not seen as well. Huff and Dolbach now down into 7th. Has rejoined the track at some point, gone off and rejoined. BXTN, the lone wanderer on these medium tyres. And it's not good news for him that Websy is just 6/10 behind him. DRS now enabled, and this will be Websy's opportunity to seize this race and take control of it from BXT and his teammate, the two AlphaTauri drivers. AlphaTauri? Why am I saying AlphaTauri? I've just realised. On the standings, it says AlphaTauri, doesn't it? It's RB. Either way, Visa Cash App RB as Websy goes round the outside of BXTN and takes the lead of this race early on. It's lap 8. We are not even halfway distance. Binary and Slazenger and Volvo also battling it out as well. We've got a caution in Sector 2, but that has been nullified. And CJ at the moment still sat outside that 1 second gap that he needs. Also, so is Lex though. BXTN putting the pressure back on Websy. He's not going to make it easy, is he? And he can't. BXTN has to pull off an incredible drive to pick up points here. The field is still so close because of this safety car that has come out. And BXTN still needs to box. Will he be relying on another safety car as Huff and Dolbach comes into the pits? Let's see what he opts for. It's going to be the hard tyre, surely. So that's Huff and Dolbach now set for the end. And BXTN will be thinking about the same soon. As I said, though, we're not halfway distance into this race yet. Plenty can happen. We've already had one safety car. Maybe BXTN is trying to hang it out for another. Down the Hamilton straight they go. BXTN alongside Websy into Cops and makes the move. Gets ahead of his teammate. But now Websy will be coming back at him. Left, right, left to go through Maggots, Beckett's. And now Chapel onto the hanger straight. And Websy is going to be incredibly close behind BXTN. It's a very long straight. And DRS is active. Websy moves up past his teammate. Retakes the position and says, thank you very much. Into Stowe they go. And down to the Vale chicane. And it seems that Websy has this covered completely. A great move from BXTN, but something that did not pay off in the end. And you can see that it's allowed Lex in the background there to catch up to these two who are battling it out. And Websy needs to start pulling away from BXTN as soon as possible if he wants to prevent Lex from coming into this race and potentially upsetting what is looking like a winning opportunity for Websy at the moment. Lex now being within DRS has spelled bad news for CJ, who is now one of the few drivers in the field who are outside of DRS. Lex at the moment is closing in on BX10, and you can only think that these tyres are falling off a cliff because Lex has pulled up even with the fighting, without it, I think this would have happened at this stage with the pace difference that Lex seems to have over BXTN now. Maybe BXTN is going to have to consider coming into the pits and just calling it quits, because here comes Lex through the hangar straight they go, and it looks like it's going to be a very easy pedestrian overtake. But BXTN has DRS as well and has managed to cover that off excellently. It's ever so close between these drivers, all with a chance of winning this championship in the top four here. Websy as well, 78 points currently off the lead of the championship. He's going to take a nice chunky haul here today over Binary as it stands. FR Element picks up a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings for track infringements. So that's usually if you cut a corner or if you go too wide on a corner exit, you have to stay within the white lines of the track. That is the track border, the white lines that go around the edges of the track. TJ 2.5 seconds off this incredible battle that we got at the moment, and Lex is coming back at BXTN, who's done incredibly well to stay with his teammate after the two have battled it out. BXTN seems resigned to second place at the moment. That second place is going to be under threat. And BXTN slightly further away this time from his teammate. Is the DRS going to be as effective for BXTN this time as it will be for Lex, who is 4 tenths behind? So I believe that Lex is still not going to make this overtaking move. And he's not, due to the fact that Lex that time was further away as well. Websy desperately trying to break the toe. You see him moving over to the right-hand side, the middle of the track there on the straights. And that is to break the slipstream that the car has behind. You're punching a hole through the air. That's what your car is doing as you go down these straights. And the other car does not have as much drag as he sits behind you. It's terrible as they go through the corners because these cars rely on that, on the air to generate downforce. To generate downforce through the corners. But on the straights, you want to be as close behind the driver in front as possible to get that slipstream and to create an overtaking opportunity. Websy still 5 tenths ahead of his teammate. BXTN's actually closer this time, actually, than he was before. And Lex still sat behind. BXTN, he's not losing anything to Websy, though. That's a key point here, as BXTN actually looked incredibly close to Websy through Stowe. Lex with a little bit of a lock-up. It kind of looked a bit... he would have started to panic there. It looked like he almost lost control of the car. Managed to pick it back up, though. Lock-ups under turning will make you a passenger into the corners. And Lex got incredibly close to the rear wing of BXTN. And would have been grimacing as he goes into the corner and very close to colliding with BXTN. So the race is kind of nullified at the moment, I'd say. Lex seemingly struggling to keep up with BXTN at the important parts of the circuit. So BXTN through the corners is doing enough to stay ahead of Lex. And BXTN just seems to have not enough for the driver to get ahead of his teammate. As we saw before, he did an excellent job of overtaking Websy through cops. Cottony Goblin has closed up to David Kovalaki here. Out of Chapel. Kovalaki has the DRS, but so does Cottony Goblin. He's going to try around the outside. And as David almost lose the back end there. Almost lost the back end. And Cottony now up into 8th place. The two didn't come together. But the acute angle that Kovalaki came in on. Made it. So he lost control of the car, basically. Tried to put too much power down. And Lex is closer now to BXTN. BXTN's praying for a safety car here. But he's done enough, I'd say. He's done enough to recover this race. Take a decent attempt to take a decent haul of points. But it would be exactly that, a recovery drive. It won't be for the position he's currently fighting in. BX10 has pace. At the moment, he's looking to finish about 8th place on that pace at the moment. Lex just a 10th away. But it's still not enough. Lex on the outside. BXTN gives him space. And unfortunately for BXTN, he's been collided with by Lex. Lex touches the rear right of BXTN. And that was a half-hearted maneuver from Lex. BXTN will be fuming at the moment with the fact that Lex just kept his nose in there. Hadn't warranted any space. And BXTN gave it him anyway. BXTN gave Lex the space. And now BXTN is 1.6 seconds away from Websy, which means he's not going to have the DRS into this corner. And Lex goes round the outside. BXTN battling it well, though. And he's going to go around the outside of Luffield and try to keep the place. Lex, obviously with the inside line, has a better exit. They're going to come down through the Wellington Straight. Oh, the Wellington Straight, sorry. Either way, got the straight wrong. We move on. Lex still close to BXTN in the background as well. You can see CJ and CJ and Slazenger fighting it out, but Lex this time moves up the inside of BXTN, and that place is now his, and BX10 will not be happy about that because he was doing well to stay within 5/10, 6/10 of his teammate, keeping that DRS. And that's basically meant that now, without it, BX10 has lost the place. Slazenger and CJ on track at the moment. Slazer's caught up to the back of CJ before. The two of them were seconds apart. Now it is just 5/10. It's got to make you wonder, is CJ struggling at this stage of the race? They are 11 laps in on this hard tyre. It will go a lot further than this, as we saw earlier on the strategy. And pit about halfway through this race and go to the end on both the medium and the hard. You'd assume that the hard can go all the way to the end here, being the harder compound. CJ probably had a little look at his mirrors there, Slaz. Looking for any opportunity to get past. He's just 3/10 behind now. CJ's second in the championship. Never won an RCR championship. And at the moment, the double world champion goes past him and manages to make the overtaking move stick. But as we've seen, that doesn't necessarily mean it's over. The DRS incredibly powerful here. CJ closing back up to Slaz as he had a little bit of a moment outside of the final corner. But these two towing each other along, are they going to be able to close up to those ahead? They're not too far off the pack ahead. Websy 2.7 seconds ahead of Lex, though. Checking out at the front, I would say, at the moment. BX10 remaining just behind Lex. The two of them had a dramatic coming together outside of the final corner. Which BX10 would definitely argue that is exactly what cost him second place in this race so far. BX10 hanging it out as long as he can. We are well over half distance now. And soon you will assume that BX10 will come into the pits. He's had a moment there. As I was looking away from the screen. He's had a moment. And he's definitely coming into the pit soon. And this is allowed Slaz to close up on BX10. Just 1 second away now. And CJ is fallen outside of a second of Slaz. Importantly for CJ, he's ahead of Binary, but he'll want to get more points than Current. And Santry has made his way up past Binary. These two very close together. And 4 tenths separating the two of them. Cottony Goblin as well, just 5 tenths behind. Slaz has come past CJ and is already on the back of BX10. Just 5 tenths between the two. And BX10 incredibly keeping the car on the track, but he's clearly struggling at the moment for grip, for pace. And Santry, Slazenger Volvo, sorry. Keep on confusing them two. Is now just 2 tenths behind BX10. BX10 dives into the pits. He's going to have to be late on the brakes here. He's going to want to optimize as much as possible. And this is now BX10 resigning on hope for a safety car. He unfortunately didn't make the right call to come into the pits. He didn't make the right call to not come into the pits when everyone else did. He's now on fresh softs. And as I said, potentially going to be battling for 8th place. But it's a tall order, isn't it? He's got that one lone point. He's going to potentially, as Binary and Santry still close together. He's got that one lone point in the moment. Got 3.8 seconds to turn it into 2. He will probably get the fastest lap of the race being on them softs. So it's 3 points that BX10 can take from this race. And Binary looking to do a bit of damage control here. We've seen before that 5 tenths along the straight is not enough to make an overtake. And it's proven there again. Slaz doing more than enough to keep Binary behind. And Cottony Goblin has decided to box. So that pressure that Binary had on him is now gone. Maybe that will help. Maybe that will help the championship leader make this overtaking move on Santry. Get him focused. Give him the ability to put Santry in his crosshairs and get this overtake done. To minimize the damage this is doing to his championship lead. CJ currently sat in 4th. He'll be scoring 12 points at the moment. And as it stands, Binary will only be leading the championship by just 1 point. Lex has brought this gap down to 1.5 seconds. There are 7 laps, including this one, that is almost finished, remaining in the session. The XTN has made it up into 8th. After Cottony Goblin Pit, of course. So he's now going to be on a charge, maybe for 7th. But David Kovalaki will be struggling on their medium tyres, but I'm pretty sure they'll last to the end. Ace picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. The XTN has just taken a second out of David Kovalaki's lead and also picks up the fastest lap of the race so far. It's a 1:28.156. And BXTN is on a charge. Like Binary ahead of him. It's damage control mode for BXTN. An incredible turnaround of performance for Slaz. As I said last week, finished 3rd. This week, finished 3rd. Or is scheduled to finish 3rd, sorry. And our race winner from last week, at the moment, down in 6th place. It's looking close, isn't it? Binary and Santry. Santry just has to hold on. He's doing enough. That out of the final 2 corners. Pulls out a further 3/10 away from Binary. Down the Hamilton straight they go. And Binary will be just looking at Santry's lines, trying to work out what Santry is doing differently to him. Santry's exits at the moment are incredible. And it looks as though DRS in the straights are the only thing that's keeping Binary in touch with Santry. Maybe a setup difference. Or maybe one has been kinder on his tyres than the other. Either way, Santry maintaining that gap very well at the moment. Three-second time penalty again for Ace, who also retires from the session. What is that? That is a safety car. That is a safety car. That has been caused by Ace, who at the moment we can't see where the car is. I think it's disappeared off the track. A safety car in the late stages of this race. My oh my, has that turned things around. Websy leading. Will he pit? Will he come in for softs? There's drivers already coming in, making the changes. They've got nothing to lose here in the final stages of this race. Binary has stayed out. Binary has stayed out on those hard tyres. Santry boxes. BXTN boxes again. Huff and Dolbach into the pits as well. The Huggy Bear as well. And Websy has a long lap to go. He's coming through Maggots and Beckett's. And his race win is under threat from a late safety car. yet to win this season in RCR. Websy was leading this race by 1.5, 1.8 seconds. Dives into the pits. And Lex opts to stay out. That's very important. Lex has opted to stay out on the hard tyre. And takes the lead of this race. Slaz into the pits. CJ into the pits as well. You've got to question Lex's decision making here. He stays in the lead. Websy coming up. He's going to stay in second. And that is great news. That is great news for the race leader, for the former race leader. As he's now just got Lex ahead of him. David Kovalaki, 19 laps on this medium tyre. And this late safety car has really thrown a spanner into the works. And it's closed up the field. The safety car that BXTN prayed for came at a time where it would have been impossible for BXTN to wait for it. That, unfortunately, is just the luck of motor racing sometimes. And Websy will be absolutely thrilled that at the moment the driver ahead of him is on 19-lap-old hard tyres. Websy will be thrilled at the moment that the driver behind him is on 19-lap-old medium tyres. The safety car is coming in. The drivers, it stayed out only briefly because of how long we've got left in this race. Safety car coming in. And the drivers behind, who have all pitted, are desperately trying to get to the back of this pack. If I was Lex, I would go now. Because you want to keep everyone behind you at a far distance. But he's not doing it. He's allowing the likes of BXTN to close up. He's slowing down on the. That was a very good safety car restart from Lex, but it's not going to be enough because the tyre disparity is just too much. I'm Mr. DJ CJ coming up already on David Kovalaki, attempting around the outside of the first corner into the second corner. They make contact slightly. CJ going around the outside of turn 3 and manages to hang it round. David Kovalaki, slight contact with CJ, but I don't think it was just a lack of space there between the two of them. CJ managing to get up into third place. Websy all over the back of Lex at the moment. It's just a tenth between the two of them. And Slazenger of Volvo sending it up on the inside of CJ. There's only just 2 laps left in this race, and it's going absolutely haywire at the moment. They're fighting for position. Back and forth they go. And Websy all over the place, trying to get past Lex. He's making it up on the inside of Cops and manages to take the lead of this race. Finally, Websy is looking like he's going to win a race here in RCR. Slazenger, it's a poor camera angle there, but Slazenger making his way up past Lex through Maggots and Beckett's. What an incredible show of racing craft there from Slazenger of Volvo, who Lex at the moment is just on 20-lap hard tyres, and there's absolutely nothing he can do from the onslaught that is about to come his way. Santry as well, making a move on Lex through the Stowe corner. And BXTN up into 5th. He salvaged his race tenfold after this safety car restart. DRS now enabled. Websy checking out ahead. It's absolutely looking like Websy is going to finally get his first RCR win this season. CJ and Slazenger Volvo battling it out. CJ up on the inside of Slaz. Into turn 2 they go, and he's managed to get the move done. Down the Wellington straight now. And CJ, DRS open, has managed to get that over Slaz. And Santry has got DRS over Slaz because Slaz was ahead. Importantly, ahead before the DRS detection zone. Binary down in 6th with a penalty as well for good measure. This is going to really hurt Binary's championship at the moment. CJ 2.6 seconds off Websy. That's not going to matter though, because CJ is picking up a good haul of points in this championship, and as it stands, will take the lead of it. Binary in 5th, doing all he can to try and eke out a gap, but it's not going to be enough with that penalty. BXTN looking on the inside of Santry into the final, into the penultimate corners they go. And BXTN has managed to pull ahead. Websy, though, coming around the final corner onto the Hamilton straight, crosses the line and wins the British Grand Prix. Websy with an incredible drive. CJ comes home 2nd, BXTN 3rd, Santry 4th, Slazenger of Volvo 5th, Lex, Huff and Dolbach, Binary, David Kovalaki, Huggy Bear, Cottony Goblin, and FR Element are your race finishers. As it stands, FR Element yet to cross the line, 18 seconds off. Cottony Goblin manages to pick up the final point away from the Huggy Bear, who I believe had a big penalty, or a big chunk of penalties. And FR Element rounding out the final corners. He'll come home 12th. Importantly, though, sorry, 1 second. Importantly, Websy holds on to his lead. That late safety car really did throw a spanner into the works, didn't it? But Websy manages to hold on. Lex with a poor strategy call. Stayed out on those hard tyres. And it did not pay off, did it? He moved down the order so quickly. CJ as well. 2nd at a track that he himself says that he hates. But CJ managing to pick up 2nd and importantly finish well ahead of his championship rival and his teammate. That is your podium. And what a podium it is. Well fought out, well earned for all the drivers there. And that late safety car really, really changing the final finishing order of this race. Okay, then, so here we go again, just to remind you all of the finishing order. Websy picks up the win, his best lap, a 128.531. Not enough, though, to beat BXTN's 128.516. He holds on to that and picks up the fastest lap. CJ in 2nd, BXTN 3rd, Santry 4th, Slazenger 5th, Lex 6th, Huff and Dolbach 7th, Binary 8th, David Kovalaki 9th, and Cottony Goblin round out your top 10. See if I can catch that real quick. But that is it then for the RCR British Grand Prix. That's round 12 over. And well, we are off. Next week, we will be off to the Hungaroring, an incredible track. Very different, though, to Silverstone. Not many overtaking opportunities there. And well, it'll definitely be an interesting one. CJ has taken the lead of the championship. I'd like to thank everybody who watched the stream, who watched the race. Bye-bye for now. We'll be back again next week on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. UK time. Thank you very much. Goodbye again.